Welcome to this week's edition of Black Authors Matter TV, where we interview the latest movers and shakers in the African American literary community. You'll meet some old friends, discover new ones, and stay abreast of the latest book developments around the country and even the world. So sit back and relax for the next 2 hours with Black Authors Matter TV co-hosts Gwen Richardson and Dr. Rhonda Lawson.
Good evening and welcome to the latest episode of Black Authors Matter TV. I'm Gwen Richardson, your host for tonight. We had some technical difficulties with Zoom, and so that's why we're a couple of minutes late. On top of that, Rhonda had a medical emergency in her family, so she won't be on the show tonight. But you all get me for the whole 2 hours, and we'll make it work. So I have to check my phone and all that. But welcome to the show. I'm Gwen Richardson, your host for tonight, and I do appreciate you all tuning in. Thank you to our dedicated viewers, and we're going to have a great show. So we always have an awesome lineup, and I get, when things don't go perfectly, I get frustrated. So, and with technology, there's always something. So things can go perfectly fine for a year, 18 months, and all of a sudden, out of the blue, something will happen, which is what happened tonight. And so, at any rate, let me log on to the page so I can see the comments at least, and I can see who's on and respond. I forgot, see, because of the mishap, I forgot to turn my sound off on my phone. So there's that. But I appreciate you all very much for your patience and for tuning in. Before we bring on the first guest, one thing I do want to mention, the National Black Book Festival is coming up next weekend. Not this weekend, but next weekend is coming fast. It's going to be excellent. And for those in the area, we want you to come out and participate. It's our 18th anniversary. We have a great lineup and lots of stuff going on. So we appreciate the fact that we've been able to have solid support for so long, and that's how we're able to keep going. And we have an excellent team of managers. They're just outstanding. So we're going to bring on our first guest, and she has a brand new book out. It's a memoir about, well, not a memoir, it's an autobiography about Octavia Butler, the great Octavia Butler. And the author's name is Susana Morris. And she's going to tell us about her book. Do you have a copy of the book? I see it behind you. But you have it. Positive Obsession. And I love Octavia Butler. So this is going to be a great conversation. So Susana, welcome to Black Authors Matter TV, and thank you for your patience. I was telling the audience that we had a challenge with Zoom, and what happened was all of for those of you who use Zoom and you have recurring meetings, all of the meetings for the show disappeared, and we had them in there for 3 years, every Tuesday till 2028. They just, when I signed on at 6:30 to set everything up, they were all gone. They were, oh God. So I had to do something fast. I had to recreate enough just to get started and send everybody the new link. And see, that link, we've used that link for 5 years, the old link, as old as the show. So anyway, that's what happened. That's why we were late. So, but thank you for your
I'm glad to be here. Of
Yeah,
course.
I'm excited about having you. When I saw that your book was out, I said, okay, somebody is going to do justice to Octavia Butler and her legacy. She really was ahead of her time. She really paved the way for so many people. We really have a renaissance in that whole genre now with younger authors, but
Absolutely.
She paved the way. So tell us why you decided Octavia Butler was going to be the topic of this book that you put out.
Sure. Well, first of all, Gwen, thank you for having me. I really appreciate the invitation. I have been a fan of Octavia Butler since I was a young person. So the past 30 years, encountered her when I was in high school. And when I became a professor in 2007, I consistently taught Kindred and other works of hers. And, I always want to give my students background, of our authors, right? This is, why Toni Morrison did this or why Alice Walker, et cetera, right? And so I would have students read interviews or watch interviews on YouTube, but I'm nosy and I wanted to know more. I wanted to
Okay.
know more about her motivations, her intellectual life, what made her tick. So that's how the biography was born.
Now, have there been any other biographies about her that you know of?
Yes, so there are others that are slightly different genres. So this is the first kind of mainstream trade publication biography. E.B. Zoboy wrote a really wonderful children's biography of her called Star Child, which is really beautiful. Lionel George wrote like a kind of artist companion. So if you're a writer and you want to be inspired by Octavia's work, it pulls from her archive and has, examples of her writing. And then there's a kind of academic biography that my colleague Jerry Canavan wrote. But Positive Obsession is kind of the first
Commercial one.
biography, commercial
Okay.
biography. Yes.
Okay. And we had Ibby's a boy on the show for her other book, one of her other books, not that one, but
Hmm.
and that's
Hmm.
been a couple of years ago when she was on. So now, is
Yes.
this your first book, or do you have other books that you did before this?
I have other books. So I'm an academic, so I wrote an academic book about 10, 11 years ago, Close Kin and Distant Relatives, The Paradox of Respectability in Black Women's Literature. So we probably heard of respectability politics. So that
Okay.
book was really talking about how Black women writers often reject or challenge respectability politics in their work. I've also edited some collections. I'm a part of a group called the Crunk Feminist Collective. So we have an edited collection of our writing. And I also co-wrote a young adult handbook that's called Feminist AF, The Guide to Crushing Girlhood. So I've done some collaborative projects. I've also done solo projects, but this is my second solo book.
Oh, okay. Now, where's the title? Where did that emanate from? The and
Yes.
was it your idea? Because we talked to, I always like to
Hmm.
ask authors, was this the working title for your book?
Yeah.
And it's 50-50, maybe less than 50-50,
Right.
that they retain the title.
Hmm. This book only ever had this one title, Positive Obsession, The Life and Time of Octavia E. Butler. That's what I came up with, and thankfully nobody tried to change it. Whereas with the other books, I mean, we were going back and forth, like, can we actually put Feminist AF on a book title? Like, do we know what that stands for? Are people going to let their children read the? But with this, there was really no issue. So the title comes from an essay called Positive Obsession that Octavia wrote. It was originally an essay that was published in Essence in the late 1980s. And it was just talking about her evolution as a writer. And in it, she uses the phrase positive obsession as a way of talking about, like, well, why did she get up every day and write? She didn't
Oh,
come from money. She came from very humble beginnings. She has an associate's degree. Like it wasn't like she had 10 PhDs or something officially. This was somebody from very humble roots. And
okay.
yet, she put everything to the side to write, to research. She devoted and dedicated her life to her craft. And she called it an obsession. But it wasn't like she was out there partying, doing drugs, being, a kind of danger to society. So it was a positive obsession. And she also uses that phrase in Parable of the Sower and so on. So that was her
Okay.
idea. If she saw somebody out there really kind of walking in their purpose, doing their vocation, she was like, okay, that is a positive obsession. You can't stop knitting, crocheting, welding, sculpting, teaching, whatever it is, writing poetry. That's your
Mhm.
positive obsession.
Oh, okay. Well, um, I first became aware, I'm trying to remember when I first became aware of Octavia Butler, but I do know that Kindred was the first book of hers that I read.
Hmm. Hmm.
And then I went I did Wild Seed, and I'm trying to remember some of the, because that was a whole series.
That's right.
to
The
see.
pattern is series.
Right. So I read some of those, and then Parable of the Sower. I think I read Parable of the Talents, but I read them a long time ago.
Hmm.
Um, so actually, our book club read Parable of the Sower recently, like in the last six
Hmm.
months or so,
Hmm.
because it was some people say it was a reflection of current events or future events,
Hmm.
um, like not a dystopian future, but somewhat,
Yeah, well,
somewhat,
I would say a dystopian
yeah,
present.
somewhat,
Yeah, yeah. Hmm.
right.
Hmm.
So, do you teach? You teach Octavia in the
All the
classroom?
time. All the
Okay,
time. In the spring, I'll
okay,
be teaching another seminar where I have students read pretty much all of her works or as many as I can fit into 15 weeks. And oftentimes the young people, they have not really encountered her. They've heard her name, but they don't really know who she is. Every once in a while, I get students who maybe read Kindred in high school or something like that, but they're often coming with fresh eyes. And so I'm glad I can bring them along on the journey. I also read Octavia in college. I encountered her in high school on my own at the library. I was just one of those
okay.
kids that went to the library every week. My mom did not have to worry about me. I would take the bus, be by myself, go to the library, sit there and read, take my books out, bring them back, did do my work there. But when I got to college, I had a class called Slavery and the Literary Imagination. And I had a young Black woman professor, Lois Brown. She still teaches, I believe she's at Wesleyan University. And so I already was like, wow, Black woman professor. And she had us reading Toni Morrison and Octavia Butler. And we read Wild Seed, and I never had read any science fiction in class. So I think it's really important for young people or people of any age to read widely,
Mm.
read across genre. If you think you don't like science fiction, just stretch yourself.
That is true. I'm an avid reader, and when you described what you did as a young person, I did the same
Hmm.
thing. Sometimes rode
Hmm.
my bicycle to the library,
Hmm.
um,
Hmm.
and I was always reading a book, and still am. I'm always reading.
Hmm.
I'm never in a position where I'm not reading a book. I have a book I'm
Hmm.
reading,
Hmm.
or more than one. But I read one, I move to the next. It's a continuum.
Yes.
But it started in childhood, as a
Hmm.
small child, self-taught reader. So I
Hmm.
just
Hmm.
loved it, and still love it. And write. I write so as well.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
when you teach Octavia in the classroom, what do you focus on? Do you focus on a particular one of her books? Do you focus on her writing style? Um, what do you how do you teach Octavia?
I teach her as an example of like argue that she is one of our foremost intellectuals of the 20th century. So I need students to understand, like, okay, I usually start them off with the short stories because I got to ease them into the semester. They don't want to start reading the 300 pages at first. So we start with something like Bloodchild, right? Which is the story of a man who lives in a society where human men get impregnated by these aliens basically, and they have to carry their young like their eggs. And he has to sort of confront, like, am I going to do this, or I'm going to let somebody else in my family bear this burden, right? And that gives students a lot to talk about: gender, pregnancy, maternal mortality. I live in Atlanta, and we're talking about maternal mortality in Georgia. But I want them to think about all these ideas that she was really trying to get her readers to understand. So I don't focus on one text. I try to pick something from each series, sometimes multiple things from each series. I have them read her nonfiction, her essays. She wrote all over the place. She was writing an O magazine at the end of her life. She
Oh,
did reviews of people in the Washington Post. Like, she did all these different things. So I really want them to think about, like, this was someone who created a career very purposefully in a time when the expectation for women was you get married, you have children, you might have a job, but like you're supposed to focus on your family. And she's like, she was very close to her family, but her life was her work. And so I really have students, take a close look at that. Yeah.
Yeah, also during the time that she was writing, Black women weren't really writing books very much. There was a limited number of people who were picked up by big publishers. That was way
Absolutely.
before
Yes.
self-publishing was an option.
Hmm.
So you really didn't have many Black women you could read. Um, and I don't know the succession of some of the authors, but J. California Cooper was one that I was reading back,
Hmm.
one of the earlier ones that I read. But I'm
Hmm.
trying to remember who did I read other than Octavia Butler as far as fiction writing goes with Black women. Um, and
Yeah,
I
I mean, she didn't really encounter too many Black women writers either. She was born in 1947. She was a
okay,
like us, she was a really voracious reader. Her mom was a domestic. She would clean people's houses, and sometimes they would give her books. So she would bring the books back, and Octavia was reading all kinds of things, reading widely. But she knew in her heart, like, oh, I really like science fiction and fantasy. So she would be reading amazing stories, all the little pulp fiction magazines that you could get at the counter, or as you're checking out in the supermarket. I know that doesn't really exist anymore for the very young people, but back in the day we could do that. And you know, she did read some James Baldwin when she got to college. She took one Black literature class that was about 1967, 1968. So that's when you start seeing the rise of African American studies and so on. But she's a part of a cadre of Black women writers in the 1970s who, to your point, they start getting the attention of major publishers. That's that moment, that kind of renaissance, Black women's literary renaissance. So she's a part of that. She's just in her own genre. Not very many people Black folk were publishing science fiction or fantasy when she started.
right? They weren't, and I'm just while you were talking, I'm thinking back on the earlier books that I read that were by Black authors, and they were all men.
Hmm.
It was all male authors, which is
Hmm.
great. It's fine. And they were
Sure.
great. They were great works. But Black women really didn't. It was the 70s, I guess, or maybe even the 80s before there was really some sort of traction in
Yeah,
that
especially
field.
big publishers. Like
Right,
folks were publishing with little boutique presses, it was
right,
before self-publishing.
right.
Our folks that we love, like Zora Hurston, had to be recovered by Alice Walker. All of her work was out of print, right? And so
Oh,
their
okay.
eyes were watching
Hmm.
God. They were photocopying. They were using ditto machines and mimeographs to
Wow.
share copies of their eyes were watching God until Alice Walker was like, we have to put this back in print. So Black women, even when they did publish back in the day, their books would go out of print until somebody else would be like, we need to study this person. We need to read this work. So Octavia's part of that generation where her work didn't really fully ever go out of print. It would here and there. There's some
Hmm.
examples, but she's a part of this big sisterhood of Black women writers who, were successful in all sorts of ways, not necessarily always financially, but, acclaim in our community and critical acclaim. Yeah.
Right. And a lot of the women who were writing poetry.
Yes, they were writing poetry as well. And Octavia didn't publish poetry, but if you read the Parable series, those Earthseed verses, those were poems that she used to get herself into that story. So she had a little poetry side too.
Hmm. Because that took a real there's some people who are visionaries. They do things before other people, and they do them well before other people. It might be
Hmm.
20 years ahead of other people.
Hmm.
And that's
Hmm.
kind of where she was,
Absolutely.
way
Absolutely. She was
ahead
a
of
trailblazer.
she really was. So tell us, you already told us about her growing up with her mom being a domestic and she was an avid reader. But what are some other things about Octavia Butler that the public should know?
She was a really shy and introverted person. It took a lot for her to kind of mold herself into the person that we got to see toward the height of her career and towards the end of her life. This very like regal, well-spoken, steady kind of person. She was someone who was like, oh, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do. And I write about that because I spent a lot of time in her archive where I got to read her diaries and journals and things.
Oh,
And I wanted writers who would read this biography and folks who maybe don't even know anything about her who encountered the book to really see that she was somebody who was fashioning herself, right? She was like, okay, it's hard for me to speak in public. I'll do hypnosis. I'll take public speaking classes. I'm going to push myself in all these ways, right? So that I can be the person I want to be. I mean, she was very purposeful in her journey. So I know that many of us encounter her like, she was already a big star. She was already the person who won the MacArthur Genius Grant. She was already being published in Essence and in the New York Times. But that person that she got to be was somebody that she cultivated very purposefully.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Now she died suddenly.
She did. She did. She was young. She was 58. Next year, it will be 20 years on February 24th since she passed. So she was a very private person, but in the last decade of her life, she experienced really high highs, like the MacArthur, Genius Grant, $295,000 free and clear,
Mhm.
paid over 5 years, which amazing. 30 years ago, amazing would be amazing today.
Right.
Uh, right today, I think it's about 800,000. So
Oh,
it's big
okay.
money.
Hmm.
So that was wonderful, getting honorary doctorates, but then her mother passed away. She was an only child, so that was devastating. Her aunts who helped raise her were getting older, and then she was having her own health challenges. So she had high blood pressure. She had, basically seemed like a heart condition, and she was not getting the kind of care that she really needed to have, which is unfortunately a common story in our community, right? So she would be taking a medicine to solve one problem, but then the side effect of that medicine would start another problem. So then she had to take a medicine for that, right? So it was about a
Oh,
decade of her dealing with these things. She was a very active person. She lived in Seattle in the last years of her life. She liked to hike. And then it got to a point where she couldn't even really walk, for example, from her seat on an airplane to the jet bridge, which was just right there. She would be out of
hmm.
breath, she would be winded. And in the last few months of her life, she fell in her home. She lived alone. So when she woke up on the floor, she was very freaked out because she's like, what happened? She hit her head on the table. So
Oh,
she was having these kind of dizzy spells and so on. So she passed away by seemingly by a stroke by falling in front of her home. Again, very young.
mm. Does she have a family? Does she have
She
children?
never married. She never had children. She was close to her nieces and nephews and to her cousins and so on. But partnership was elusive for her. She wanted to be married. She decided against children. She's like, okay, I can teach children. I can be a mentor. She would tutor youth in the library and she taught at workshops for science fiction writers. But as many sisters probably can relate, dating sometimes it can be difficult. Particularly, she would say that because of her profession, sometimes she'd meet people and they'd be like, "What do you do?" "I'm a novelist," and they would be like,
It can
"You
be
too
kind of
fancy for me."
intimidating.
Kind of
Mhm.
intimidating. And even sometimes, hindered her from friendships too. That she'd want to meet other women, be like, oh, let's hang out. And they're like, you're too fancy for me. The other thing she encountered was people perceived that, that she might be gay, but she did not identify as a gay person, as a lesbian. But she was very tall. She was not super girly or feminine. And so she felt like sometimes that also hindered her, some of her prospects, besides just being a shy person. So she did not traditionally have a family, but she was beloved by many and had really like chosen family. Like she moved to Seattle because she knew folks there, right? She sent a lot of letters. She had like a really healthy correspondence. She had folks that she would be on the phone with for hours. So she called herself like comfortably asocial. She kept her own company. She was a loner, but she had her homegirl, she had her family, and she had her fans.
Okay. Now, what do you teach and where do you teach?
So I teach at Georgia Tech in Atlanta, and I'm
Okay.
in the School of Literature, Media, and Communication. So it's kind of like an English department and a journalism department and a communications department had a baby because we're at a STEM institution. So we're a little unique. Usually you think of like years ago, I taught at Spelman and we had a English department, right? It's a separate, very clear thing. When I went to Emory for my PhD, English department. But Georgia Tech is a STEM focused place. So we have a lot of engineers, a lot of, pre-med and so on. And so our students are really interested in science fiction for that reason. I got a lot of engineers who want to read Octavia Butler, right? Because science fiction gets you to think expansively. So then you get inspired and then you can actually go make the thing.
Right. And
Yeah.
use that in engineering.
Exactly.
You said it was 20 years, and I didn't realize it had been 20 years.
Yeah, it was 2006. So
20 years
it'll be 20
goes
years
by
next year.
fast.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it
Mm-hmm.
can't, I mean, it doesn't seem like it's 20. I was thinking more like 10, but um, because her work is alive,
That's right.
it's almost
That's
like,
why.
yeah, she's alive.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
uh, in the final couple of minutes, I want to get your, did you see the series Kindred?
I did.
And what was your opinion of it? How did you think it was done?
I didn't necessarily love all the choices that were made. So there were some big changes made with some of the main characters. Like the main character, Dana, has a husband and they go back in time together and they're fighting to get back to the present. And in the series, he's just like a random guy that she meets out one night. So I'm like, well, why would this person want to go back in time and save you? Y'all don't even know each other. He needs to be your man. And I wish that it was like a what do they call it, a limited series, a mini series, right? So
Mhm.
that everything could have been tied together, but because they had hoped to have more than one season, it kind of ends in the middle of the book. So I'm
Yeah.
hopeful. I know that right now there's been a lot of like cutbacks since the writer strikes and since all the anti-DEI stuff. There's not as many Black shows being produced as there were even 5 years ago, but I'm hopeful that someday there will be an upswing because her books are always being optioned. Even when she was alive, Kindred was
Mhm.
optioned and she started writing a television script for it, but it did not really go anywhere. But she has so many wonderful stories, and I hope they can be adapted in the future for TV and for film.
She did have some great stories. And
Mm.
I'm just going to just share one of the comments that someone is saying hello from the Bahamas. And this is an
Hello.
interesting conversation. So yeah, we get people viewing from mostly domestic, but we do get worldwide viewership.
Hmm.
And so thank you so much, Susana, for being on the show.
Yes.
Thank you for capturing uh, all the information that you have to let people know who Octavia Butler was, the woman and the
Yes.
writer. So
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
as well as enjoying her work.
Absolutely. I hope people will read my book, but I hope more than anything, folks will go out and read Octavia or reread her work. It's so important.
Right, I agree. Well, thank you for maintaining her legacy. And it's important for us to do that.
Thank you.
Okay, have a great night.
Me too.
Okay, that was Susana Morris, and she had the autobiography about Octavia Butler called Positive Obsession. Very interesting uh, woman in terms of Octavia Butler, but also Susana. She was very, uh, the way she told the story about how she researched and discovered Octavia Butler and wrote about her was also very interesting. So, for those of you who are tuning in a little late, I am on the show by myself tonight. Rhonda had a medical emergency with a family member that she had to take care of. So, she will be back next week. And next week will be our last show before the for the month, because the National Black Book Festival will be October 23rd through the 25th, and the Tuesday after that we don't have a show because we are completely exhausted and we take the week off. So one of our next guests, well, actually the next two guests that are going to be on tonight will be at the National Black Book Festival. And so they're going to be telling us about their work now beforehand, so that when you go to the book festival, you can check out their books. And so um, we have C.M. Radrick who's
Hey, how you doing?
AKA Derek Nicholas.
You trying to tell everybody the secret word? No,
You got your
you're
name on
not
the
supposed to know that.
screen.
No, man.
You have your name
Yes,
on the
Derek Nicholas.
screen.
Hey, everybody. Hey, with this
So
whole thing, how you doing, Gwen?
I'm doing great. Welcome to Black Authors Matter TV.
Thank you. Welcome to having me. Let's talk.
Okay. All right. And you're going to be at the book festival in a couple of weeks or a week and a half.
Yes,
And you're going to be sharing your book.
yes,
Now, do you have more than one book? It
yes. I
looks
have.
like you have them on the wall behind you.
Yes, I do. And
Okay.
product placement. So I have 4 up there because I like those covers, and I have like 6 or 7 done, and I'm working on a couple now. So yeah.
Okay. Okay, good. Now, do you write in a particular genre? Do you have a,
No. I
well, do
like
you
to
write
think,
fiction or nonfiction?
oh, well, fiction, but also dabble in historical fiction. So,
Okay.
because I love nonfiction involving presidential history and that sort of thing. But I always like to say, I can give you what you want, right? If you want political satire, I got you. If you want family drama, I got you. If you want detective novels, I got you. If you want cozy mysteries, I got you there, but I do it a little differently. And if you want, the fantasy romance stuff, I got you there too. I don't like that, but I got you there too. So
Well, if you don't like something, it's hard to write about in a
no,
topic
actually,
area that you don't like. As a writer, that's just my opinion.
well, Glenn, I like to think of it this way. I
Okay.
write it and I start to like it when I write it. So it's like, but
Oh, okay.
what happens is I read various authors to kind of get in the mindset to see what the skill set is. And then I put my own spin on
Okay. Well, that's a interesting approach to it.
it.
My favorite genre is historical fiction, but
Ooh,
I don't
talk.
write I don't write historical fiction. My 2 novels are mysteries. They're
Ah,
contemporary. They're present day. So
okay.
historical fiction, uh, for me, to be done correctly, and I love it because the people who do it right, they do a lot of research
Do,
to get it just right.
do you want to know a secret about what I'm doing? You want to know? I'll tell you.
In terms of the
My
historical
historical
fiction
fiction.
piece.
Yeah, I'll tell
Okay.
you.
Well, before we do that, let's
Oh,
talk
sure.
about your new book, My
Sure, I am
Brother's
not doing
Keeper.
the wrong. That's true. Yes. What would you like to know? It is a book
Show the
that
cover for the audience so they can see what the
got the
cover looks like.
there it is.
Okay.
It's a
Uh,
very nice cover. Forget that little thing.
yeah,
It's
that's the
basically
proof.
mhm. The story is about my books are coming in late because I ordered late. It's a story about a family in 1890s Oklahoma, a black family that
Okay.
actually owned land. And of course, as we know, 1890s Oklahoma, black people own land. It was kind of a little touch and go. So the father goes off to fight in the Spanish-American War, leaving the wife home to take care of the 2 sons. Tragedy ensues, and then it becomes a mom trying to save her 2 boys. It is a very good story because it really does point to the importance of family and how family can come from from the most interesting place. Because, well, I'll tell you. So basically, someone is killed and the son is blamed, and actually, the family takes support from the family of the band who was killed. So it does add a dynamic of how people can come together in some very, very tragic times.
Okay. Now, why the setting of Oklahoma? Do you have Oklahoma roots or
My family and I, every now and then, we go to Broken Bow, Oklahoma for Christmas. And I have always liked that area just because of um, the ruralness of it, right? And the thing about Oklahoma is there's still a level of, let's say, territory. So it's not as maybe as pronounced or developed as other places. I'm in Austin, Texas, Dallas, Texas, Houston, where you are. There's a lot of development, right? So it's hard to go out to nature. And so Oklahoma felt right to me. And to be honest with you, a lot of the historical, let's talk about Tulsa, let's talk about those places where Black people were moving from Ohio to go down to the South and own land. And when you had the land grabs of the 1890s before Oklahoma became a state, it's like that's when you have Black people migrating. And for me, it was a natural fit for the story.
Okay. And when does the book come out?
Oh, it's available now on Amazon. It came out about 2 months ago. Yeah.
I apologize for the bottle.
Oh,
When I sent you we had a challenge with Zoom, and that's why I had to send a new link to everyone.
no
And I'm
worries.
glad that it just happened like minutes before the show was starting.
Mm,
And so
it's tech.
I normally have my water set up and everything in my cup, but it is what it is.
I got
Sometimes
you. Look, watch this. Watch this. I got you. I
okay.
got you. Hold on.
That's
We're there together, Gwen. We're there together. I got you. I got
okay.
you.
All
I got
right.
you.
But technology can mess you up sometimes. It's great when
Yes, it
it
can.
works, but then when it all of a sudden doesn't work, then
That's true.
it's a challenge. So
That's true.
now, how thick is my brother's keeper in terms of page count? Like, is it a quick read? Is it
Yeah.
a
Well, very quick. It's a novella, actually. It's 163 pages, and
okay?
so it's one of those things where I wanted it to be honest with you. It started as a young adult book. I went
Right.
into the process of writing for teens between 16 and 21, right? But I pivoted and I said, you know what? This story will resonate with a lot of people. So I kind of adulted it up a little bit, added a couple of layers, but I still wanted it to be readable. You can put this down, like you can pick it up and put it down when you're done in like a week. It is a very fast read.
Okay.
So, but the characters are still there. It's character driven. It's rich, and you'll have one of the great things about it. You'll have people to root for, and you will have people to despise. The villains are
Okay.
villains, and the heroes are heroes. There's
Okay.
there's a line in the book. One of the characters says, "We have to protect our heroes because we're running out of heroes."
Okay.
Yeah.
So is that a line that you could, as a writer, that you created? That's one thing about being a writer. Uh, we can create our own worlds and we can
Mhm.
come up with, like you say, heroes and villains and
Mhm.
cities. We can create, cities and towns
I always
and
tell people.
the
I always
future
tell
or the
people.
past.
Right. I always tell people everyone has a story to tell. It doesn't matter who you are, you have a story you can tell, even if you're a writer or not a writer. So we all experience things that are great in life, and sometimes we should share them because, we all read different things and we all have a taste for different things as far as literary is concerned. So everybody got a story.
Yeah, that's true. And more than one.
Yes, they have sequels and have prequels
Yeah.
and have volumes. That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah. Now you said you had I'm looking at the books behind you. The one
Oh,
one of them looks like it's faded out or obscured in some way.
that is Writer's Block. It's a white cover and it's kind of difficult to read. That one is
Okay.
a detective novel set in New Orleans, actually, because I'm from
Okay.
Louisiana, and it's a part of a series. It's a female detective who's a protagonist, and it's a trilogy. So
Okay.
Writer's Block is the second of the series, and I brought that one because it's a good introduction, interesting enough, to the characters. And it reads fast. It reads good. It's better. And I wanted to get 4 books that are different, right? Writer's Block, Detective. Lame Duck, let's face it, we are living in strange times politically. So Lame Duck is a political satire / comedy. So it kind of brings everything to fold in the craziness that is politics right now. And the ignominious Pembroke West is about a black man and a white man in West Virginia trying to work together to finish a book. So it's a character-driven story with 2 men from different lifestyles. I
Okay.
like
Now
Pembroke West.
when did you first decide I'm going to start writing books?
When I was in the 3rd grade, Gwen,
Okay.
yes, I actually wrote a screenplay. All right, here's the story, and this is a real story. So
Okay.
third grade, I was in a play as a rabbit. I know I'm black, but I was a rabbit. So it was like Peter Rabbit or something. It's like Easter play. So I didn't like the script. I thought my script could be better. And so I ad-libbed some things and it didn't follow the script. So I'm like, you know what? Be a writer. So I started writing things then. And I wrote my first screenplay when I was in the third grade. Now, it was, of course, not published. I'm a kid. I'm a real kid. And it has now since been discarded from my mom's house in Shreveport, Louisiana, somewhere in there, because, it was on paper. It wasn't on a disc. So that was my first time. So I always knew, because again, stories. And I've always been a good storyteller. It's what I do for a living too in public relations and all the stuff that I've done. So it's one of those things where I'm a storyteller. And so for me, it really does come easy. Just creating those characters and giving them things to do. That to me is a good story.
Okay. Well, a lot of writers get the bug when they're very young. So
when'd you get yours?
same thing.
No, hold on, no, Gwen. What's the first thing you wrote? I mean, let's hear.
Oh, I've been writing since I could read. So the very first thing I wrote, I don't know, but I always used to win essay contests in elementary school. So
Nice.
I was writing, and then I did write some. They weren't screenplays per se; they were plays. And my father was a pastor, and he had he allowed a lot of latitude among the youth ministry that I was a part of, was basically the youth choir. But we would do plays, and it was me and I'm still friends with him today. His name is Michael Worsley. We were the two people who would write the plays for the choir when we were teens and perform them at church. And
that is cool.
They gave us, my dad he was a pastor, but he was progressive, in his time, and he saw the future that it was young people, and so
very nice.
He did things to attract and keep young people, at church, and that's where growth is in any church. Because if you have a church full of old people, it's gonna die off. You need young people to inject energy and to lead to have kids for the next generation of people to carry on.
Right.
So
and I always like to think
you asked me, so that's why I never have shared that on the show in 5 years. But that was yeah. And here's something else I used to do as a real young kid. This is probably the first things I wrote. I used to go visit my grandparents, like for 2 or 3 weeks in the summer. That you go further south. We were in Virginia, but my grandparents were in North Carolina. And my grandfather, my father's father, was blind. He probably got glaucoma or something back then that you just went blind and they didn't have anything. So he would basically just sit in a chair all day listening to the radio or the TV. And I would write stories and read them to my grandpa.
Wow. It's that right. Right. That's what the beauty of it is, right? Way back when, that's how people entertained themselves. That's how you learned history. You had people put stuff on walls. That's how we learned over the course of our time on this earth. It's people being able to have that folklore and being able to tell stories and be good storytellers and let people see, Medea, Big Mama, them back in Shudrin. It's that kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you for sharing, Gwen.
Well, thank you for asking. I never had anybody ask, but yeah, I've been writing since I started reading first, self-taught.
Oh yeah.
3 or 4 years old, and then I started writing as soon as I could,
Yep. Same here.
Mm-hmm.
I was always and this is real. I was reading a phone book. I
believe you. I believe you. Yeah.
We had a bookmobile that came around. I lived in a Black neighborhood. We had a bookmobile, and my great aunt, who I lived with for a little bit, my parents were working. She made sure that my sister and I went to the bookmobile. Right, we would go out there, we'd get the book, they'd be there, and that really created our love of reading. My sister and I. So yeah.
Oh, we didn't have a bookmobile in where I lived. We had a library though. Um,
Well, I mean, we had a
well,
lot, yeah, but getting
but
to the
when we were in
library.
a like really rural area when I was really small, I don't even know where my mother got the books from that I was reading.
There you
I
go.
never got a chance to ask her.
Hey, there you go.
But we had books in the house. She somehow there were books in the house, children's books in the house.
Right.
And of course, you had the magazines because every black home had Jet and Ebony.
I was
So
gonna say Ebony Jet, yeah.
yeah, you could read
Sometimes you
those.
had, yeah, Black Enterprise if you were, business actor. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. But
Uh-huh.
that was later.
Right,
Black
right.
Enterprise was later. Ebony and Jet. That was that was
Johnson,
first.
the Johnson publication kicking it out. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And of course you had BT later on and Cheese.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I can go. I used to live in DC. When I lived in DC, we were right close to where the BET studio was. And so in the early 2000s when I was up there, and it's
Mhm.
always funny when you drive by, you're like, hey, Barry Simpson. It's hey, so you kind of go back to that. Culture's great.
Yeah. Well, also Soul Train was important in the culture
See,
too.
okay, hold on, Gwen.
Okay.
I'm younger. I don't know Soul Train. I'll give you Dan Stevens,
You
Dan
didn't see
Terrio.
Soul
But
Train?
well, I
You
mean,
never
fine,
saw
yeah,
Soul
sure.
Train?
Sure, I saw Soul Train. That's fine. But
Okay.
MTV, yeah, I was videos. I
Yeah,
was
but
videos. Oh,
but
yeah.
that was
Anyway,
a
so
precursor to some of the,
that's
you
fair.
have to
That's
see the
fair. That's fair.
chronology
That's fair. I got
because
music is
they
a wonderful thing.
yeah, because things have a progression.
Yes.
And a lot of times like where we are now, people think, okay, like my daughter who's 29,
Mhm.
she's never known not having the internet.
Yeah.
And so when I explained to her before the internet, this is what this is what we did, it's
Yeah.
like, it's foreign.
Wait, hold on. Real quick. I know we're not talking about the book, but let me throw this out too.
Uh-huh.
My kids don't remember when, like in the 80s and 90s, when you wanted to record a song. You couldn't go to Amazon or Spotify. You had to wait till that song played on the radio
Right.
and that record. And you want to do it before the commercial hit or after the commercial, you want to hit it right there. And if you were good, you had a mixtape. You had a
Yeah,
mixtape.
that's true.
Just
That's
saying.
true. That's
It,
what
it
that's
took
how you
skill.
record a song.
They don't know
It
about that
did.
skill. It took skill. It took
It
skill.
did it did
Yeah.
take skill because you had to be at the ready.
Because you didn't know the playlist. Exactly. You waiting for that Prince song to come on. And hold on, wait. Hold on. Yeah.
You had to jump on it right there. So yeah, I mean it now it's when I describe it to my daughter, she's like, what? But we loved it. So,
Right.
that was the way we captured music.
There you go. There you go.
So
What else do you want to know about the books?
now I want to know about the book you have behind you that has West in the title.
The ignominious Pembroke West. Now,
Okay.
I actually put ignominious here because, to help it phonetically to be able to say it. So this one takes place in Washington, D.C. / West Virginia. And it's a guy who is, and your audience will love this. He's a writer who isn't considered a writer. Like he's a failed writer, not failed, but he can't sell anything. And so he's not published. This takes place in the 2018, 2017. So we didn't have Amazon, Kindle, all that stuff. So he kept trying to sell his book, and no one is buying it. So his former ex-wife, who works for a publishing company, put him in contact with a recluse who is a very famous author. And the famous author has a deadline, but the famous author lives in the backwoods of West Virginia. And he is a mess, a drug addict, someone who's a little racist. And he and the main character, he's a black man who has to go to West Virginia and help this white guy finish this book. And so you have a lot of going back and forth with characters, right? Because again, it turns out that Pembroke West, which is the main character, the reclusive author, he isn't as bad as you think he is, and so it's a level of growth, and it's very cool because you'll see the hiccups in the relationship between the two men, and then at the end, the black guy is really surprised to go, "Wow, And he becomes, well, I'll give it away. He becomes an author at the end because of the work with Pembroke West. So
Okay,
that
is
one,
Pembroke West the man in
the
the
recluse,
West
yeah.
Virginia? Okay, he's the
Now
recluse.
he's the author. His Pembroke. His name, well, his alias, like mine that you kind of told everybody, his
You
alias
have
is
it on the
Pembroke.
screen.
Well, oh, you know what, Gwen? I'm sorry. It's on me then. You're right. My fault, Gwen. Now I
Yeah,
see why you
that's
did
what
it.
I'm telling you.
Yeah, yeah,
If
yeah.
you
All
don't
right, all
want
right.
people to
Okay.
know your real name, then don't
Okay.
put it on your screen.
Fine. I'll take that L. I'll take that L, Gwen. So Everett West is the pseudonym nom de plume for this guy named Charleston Baker, who is actually that's the writer's real name. So there's a whole bunch of layers to it, but it's a very good read. And people would definitely enjoy it because again, it's character driven. You have two men, so it's the whole man versus man and man versus himself, that kind of thing. So those two focuses. So yeah, I
Okay.
like Pembroke West. It's a really good book. So,
Okay. Now, who would you consider to be your primary reader for your books? Like, do you know when you do you go
oh
out much to meet the reading public? Like, you'll be at the National Black Book Festival,
yeah.
but do you meet the reading public, and can you kind of get an idea of who your reader is?
When, like I said, I live in Austin, and there's this place called Book People, and also Black Pearl Books. By the way,
Oh,
quick
yeah.
plug: if you ever live in, yeah, Black Pearl Books,
Mhm.
fantastic place to go. Um, so I have gone to different places and just kind of been a fly on the wall, not been a writer or author, so to speak, just listening and kind of asking people questions. What I've done is because I write different genres, kind of see and get their interest, right? To see what resonates with them. So my books, it really does depend on what you're looking for, right? If you are looking for certain things, and every book has a different voice to it, because it fits the genre. And I like to think that it doesn't matter if you're into cozy mysteries or if you like cozy mysteries, not you'll like a book that I wrote as a cozy mystery. If you are not into political satire, Lame Duck is a great book. So it's one of those things where for me, any reader can read my book. It is not something that I think it's this way. I didn't know. Everybody can pick up my books and read them. And the great book to do it to start to get to kind of my mindset is My Brother's Keeper because it's
Okay.
so quick to read. It's so interesting. And I'm just saying this because I wrote it, but other people told me. It's one of those things where it gets you hooked very quickly, very
Okay.
quickly. So, and I look, and Gwen, this is my first book fair. You are this is the first time I'm
Okay.
doing this. So I look for those who are watching. I hope that I can sell my first book, and I'll take a photo with you, and I'll do all this, and I'll sign it. So the first one, you got me. So I'm looking forward to a couple of weeks. I'm also looking forward to talking to some of the. I'm doing the receptions, the breakfasts. I'm gonna talk to other
Okay.
authors because I'm curious to see what other people think. So yeah,
Okay. Yeah. Well, you'll have a lot of fun. Now we
that's what I
have
want.
one of our regular viewers said she couldn't
Okay.
see your author name, because she went on Amazon to look, but she couldn't find it. So, see, there's a sale there.
Yeah.
So your name, maybe you can put the book on the
Yes.
screen close, because
Yes.
you can kind of see it with lame duck, but not that clearly what's on
Gotcha.
the
Hold on.
wall.
I'll do it with this one, and I
Good.
apologize for that. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna turn
Mhm.
this light off. So there you go. So that's it right
Okay.
there. C.M.
Yeah,
Radrick.
good. CM Radrick. So
And
that's
by the way, since we're doing plugs, if you want to join us on social,
okay.
um, put this in focus. Yeah.
Okay.
Uh, please
No,
join.
it's
Yeah.
perfect. Perfectly
Yeah,
folks.
please join us on social, Instagram, Facebook, and because
Okay.
we need people, we need people.
Now,
And for
what's
those of
CB
you,
authors?
CB Authors is CB Collective, which is a publishing company that we started, my friend and I, and it really is something to get out young authors and authors who are new, and our whole point is to give them a platform. So we're going to put authors out through CB Collective, and so for me, that's why I have those two as so Christopher Montgomery Radrick, my pseudonym, which by the way is my last name, my first name anagram, and Christopher is my oldest son's middle name, and Alexander Montgomery is my middle kid, my second kid is my last kid's, whatever. Alex's middle name, whatever. So that's why I'm seeing Radrick. So yes, please join. I don't know if Alex and Miles are watching, but hey, that's all I got. I'll put this light back on because I want to look pretty. What else? Gwen, this has been great. This has been fantastic. Gwen. I've enjoyed myself. This has been a fantastic experience. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so finally, in
Yes.
final minutes, so when you come to the book festival and people
Yes.
find you in the which category are you in?
I'm
which
in mainstream fiction.
Okay, mainstream fiction. Okay, so when people come to the mainstream fiction area and find you, what do you what are you going to be presenting? Like, what are you going to have all of your books?
Okay.
Or
Been
you
fantastic question.
basically focus
Fantastic question.
on My Brother's Keeper, the newest book? What are you
Okay,
going to?
so on my table, which actually is a gold table, and it looks pretty good, I might add, you'll be able to purchase all the books behind me. That's why I have them up there. So,
Okay.
My Brother's Keeper, Lame Duck, um, Writer's Block, and Pembroke West. Now, there are only a select few copies of Pembroke West, Writer's Block, and Lame Duck, but you can buy a whole bunch of My Brother's Keeper. So, and of course, you can order them. We'll have everything set up. Now, so we have tchotchkes. That's what that word is. We have things to give away. We have a whole bunch of bookmarks and bookmarks and magnets and like, hold on. Well, I'm not gonna show you mag, but we have a lot of stuff because this is a book festival, right? We have book bags because we want to celebrate reading. And all of our things that will be on the table will be things that people can, some things are purchased, some things are free, but it's all about books. It's all about literature, and it's all about the enjoyment of reading and also writing. And also, I'm going to sell Alex's t-shirts there. So if you are watching, I'm going to sell you t-shirts. He's a graphic designer. He does t-shirts. So,
Okay.
so everything, I might have food. If people want, they can send me a note. They say, "Yeah, I want some ribs." I'll bring ribs from Austin. Austin, we'll have the barbecue. If
Well,
you want like something to drink, I got you. So yeah. Well,
okay.
I'm really excited. I'm really excited.
Okay.
So yeah.
All right. Well, we do have a concession there, and it will be, I think they start about 11 and they go through the end of show, end of the day. And it's run by the deacons of the church.
Yeah.
And they will sometimes they do brisket, they smoke stuff, they do
Okay.
catfish, they do some real cooking.
So in other words, Gwen, you're telling me don't bring in ribs. I got
Yeah,
you.
it's
Yeah,
covered.
that's what
Yeah.
you're saying it in a very nice PR way. I'm just saying. If I do PR, I would have skilled you to say exactly how you just said it, and you didn't hurt my feelings, so it's fine.
Well, I don't do PR per se, but marketing is my
All
lane.
right.
That's my
There you
lane.
go.
And writing. So anyway, now do you want me to call you Derek CM, or what do you want?
Now that you have taken the
Okay.
camera, well, it's my fault. Derek's
Okay,
fine.
yeah.
Derek's fine.
Okay.
Derek's fine.
All
Derek's
right.
fine, Gwen.
He will
Derek's fine.
be at his table at CM Radrick at the National Black Book Festival.
There you go. And then look,
Okay.
I can give y'all things and there's Derek. Like, yeah, all right, fine. Here you go. So,
Okay.
thank you, ma'am.
All
And thank
right.
everybody for watching.
Yeah, look forward to seeing you in a week and
Same.
a half.
All right. Take it easy,
Okay.
everybody.
Take care.
Bye.
All right. So, for those who are just now tuning in, put the name in the chat. Okay. I could do that, but with Rhonda not here, it's difficult for me to do double duty. She always does the chat. So, CM Radrick was the name. And you also, if you go to our Facebook page that you're seeing this live on, the flyer with all the people on tonight's show is there. So pinned, I think it's pinned at the top, but it's close to the top anyway. So you can see everybody's name and their websites or their social media on that flyer. So since Rhonda's not here to put stuff in the chat, that's my second option. So our next guest is also going to be at the National Black Book Festival. Her name is Cathy Staton. I think that's how she pronounces it. Cathy Staton. Is that right, Cathy? Okay. And she is not only going to be selling her books, but she's going to be doing a seminar on Saturday. So we'll let her tell you about her books and um, all of her work and the seminar that she's going to be putting on. So if you could unmute so we can hear your voice, Cathy. Welcome to Black Authors Matter TV.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, you're welcome, and thank you. I'm glad that you got the email about the new link. And
yes,
so that was
yes.
I told at the top of the show, I told everyone, what happened. And it was just strange. But you have to think fast because and so I came up with a solution. And my media manager, who also is my stepson and does all the back end for the show. Mm-hmm. He coached me through how to get it going. So welcome to the show, and we look forward to seeing you at the festival. So Cathy, tell us about yourself. And you're a coach yourself in terms of coaching people through their fears. And how did you start believing that your lane was being a coach for other people?
Start believing. I actually didn't believe. I was kind of like thrown into this, I think through God, he led me into doing this. But it all started with me just writing my first book. I'm a survivor of domestic violence. And my first personal published book is about me getting out of that domestic violence relationship. And it was from there, sharing my story through there where I was like, sharing my story helped me heal, helped me get through that process. And so just going around and speaking and sharing my stories and meeting people and being in a few different anthologies myself, I kind of got the nudge once I saw how once I saw my experience or went through my experience in doing anthologies and hearing and seeing what other people were going through. I feel like I had gotten a nudge to, I want to do this to be able to help other people share their stories and to show them how important it is to, for them to share their story and to use your voice to share our stories, because our stories are not for us. The things that we go through are not for us. They're for other people. And so I think it's very powerful and it's important for us to, to do that. And a lot of us are afraid to share our stories because of what people might say or because they're embarrassed, and things like that. And I was too. So I kind of to answer your question, I kind of got thrown in it. I'm never was a out front person, never was a person to get in front of people. And so God just led me there. And, and here all these years later, I've gotten, better at what I do. And here I am.
Now, I've noticed a lot of people I'm hearing it. Maybe, I don't know if I'm hearing about it more. I don't know if it's occurring more. Maybe people are talking about it more. That could be. But domestic violence seems to be more common than we would hope it would be.
Mm-hmm. It is. This is actually October, which is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. It's also which a lot of people talk about more is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Yes, too. But I always put, when I share stuff about it in the beginning of the month and stuff, I always say they both kill and they both destroy lives. And so, but yeah, domestic violence is on the rise, and it's out there, and it is getting worse and worse. A lot of women are getting out, and a lot of women are unfortunately, women and men are losing their lives to it. But now you can turn on the TV every day and you can see something, about domestic violence, unfortunately. So it's very important to speak out, not only write about it, but just to speak out, period, to share your story and to get out of that situation and get out safely.
Mm. Are there normally, with the people that you talk about with domestic violence and in your particular situation, are there normally red flags before there's actual physical contact? Were there red flags that you saw for your situation
They're
before
red, they're red
that
flags.
physical?
They're red flags. I believe, and a lot of people may not agree with this, but I believe that, there's a saying that say, love is blind. I believe love is not blind. I believe we just refuse to see, the red flags. I saw the red flags, I saw them, but I masked them, I made excuses for them, and then later on back in hindsight, I'm like, this happened, that happened. So, and for whatever reason, that we could be broken, so we don't see them, or we, let the person get away with what they're doing because we don't want, them to leave, or, might be financial reasons, or, different reasons why. But I truly believe that we see the red flags, we just ignore them.
Mm. Well, that is true, and that's true in a lot of negative behaviors
Mm-hmm.
that we experience with a spouse or significant other. We really hope it's a one-off, but generally the negative habits, they're not one-offs.
Mm-hmm.
They're character flaws. And
Mm-hmm.
so but a lot of times if you hope, you want the best, you want to see the best in your mate,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where the saying love is blind. And I agree with you, it's not completely blind. What it does is it excuses
Mm-hmm.
whatever's going on. And
Absolutely.
how long were you experiencing the domestic violence? Like, how long did you stay with? Was it
Mhm.
your husband?
Yeah, I'm a two-time domestic violence survivor. My first husband was physical, um, mentally, psychologically. He actually tried to kill me and my son. And I was with him I'm almost 3 years. And my second husband, he didn't put his hands on me, but he um, abused me mentally and verbally, and
Mhm.
psychologically. And we stayed together for about 2 years, as well. This first time around, I didn't know what to do, or how to get out. I actually thought it was love, until I started getting into church and reading scripture and things like that. And that's when God showed me that this is not this is not what marriage is supposed to be like. And He helped me get out that situation. And the second time around, I knew, I knew better this time, and I was like, okay, I'm not gonna stay in this, So yeah, and I got out. Yeah. And that's what my very first book is about that I wrote way back in 2011, that I wrote about. It's called Love's Got Everything to Do with It. The title actually came from, which is not the book I'm talking about here, but it's my first book. But the title came from, everybody knows the story with Tina Turner,
Mhm. Yeah.
and she went through domestic violence. That's Everybody knows that,
Mhm.
really bad. And she wrote a book, What's Love Got to Do with It? And it's crazy because in, knowing her story and what she went through, and it kind of back then, I thought long and hard for my title. And, and when she said, asked what love's got to do with it, and God showed me what true love was. So that's kind of where I kind of flipped the title a little bit. And I said, love's got everything to do with it, because it truly does. God's love, you know, In 1 Corinthians 13, God tells us what love is. Love is patient, love is kind. So I went by that. Those verses alone helped me get out of my marriage. If I'm not being treated like this is not love. This is not God's love. And that's why I call the book Love's Got Everything to Do with It, because it truly does.
Yeah, if someone is supposed to love you, you shouldn't be in fear of them. It
Absolutely.
shouldn't put you in a position where you're in fear of
Right.
them. And that's not love. I was fortunate that I've never had a man put his hands on me. Um, but on my first marriage, it wasn't like abuse. It was just it was like hell. It was and it wasn't abusive. It was just crazy. Some people are, not everybody has the same idea about marriage. And that's one thing when you marry a person, you need to discuss, okay, how do you think our life should be? Roles that you play. The finances are extremely important. Uh, finances break up a lot of marriages. I think that's might be the number one. That and sex, or that those two. That marriage is hard to sustain a marriage if you don't, have communication, and you're not going in the same direction. Your values are not the same, and you don't have the same idea about what marriage is. And that's I found out too late. Well, it wasn't too late because I was married 4 years the first time, but in year two, I found out that my ex-husband, he had a different idea about marriage than I did. And he thought he could do whatever he wanted, and I was just gonna be, he could be out, stay out, hang out, just do whatever. And I was just supposed to, I don't know, accept it, or I didn't know. But he had a different idea, and that it's important to discuss that beforehand, because you can't assume. I assume some things, so you can't do that. And I think with the domestic violence, from what I hear from women, a lot of women think if it happens, oh, he didn't mean it or whatever, and it's a one off. No, if he puts his hands on you one time, you need to be out the door, because it's going to happen again. That's not something that's an isolated incident. If a man will hit his wife or girlfriend or whatever, then that's who he is.
Yes, you're right. Absolutely.
Be a punching bag or dead. A lot of people and a lot of women end up dead from spousal abuse. And this is, whatever he's got, it's not worth that. It's not financial, or just, you think you're in love. That's you said love has everything to do with it, but that's really not love. It's almost like a codependency.
For the right love. You see, the right love has everything to do with it.
Right.
See, there's a worldly love, and then there's God's love.
You're right.
So the right love has everything to do with it. Yeah. So
you're right.
And that's what I talk about, God's love. Not just, you could tell me you love me and then hit me. That's not love. You're right.
No.
So
no. And the Bible says that husbands should love their wives like Christ loved the church.
Exactly.
So that tells you the kind of love, and he was willing to lay down his life for it.
Amen. Yep,
that's the right kind of love that it's supposed to be. So you have a Surviving Her series. Now, what is that about?
Oh yeah, Surviving Her series. My Surviving Her series is in the title, Surviving Her. So I do these series where I recruit women who have survivor stories. I have different titles that come with each book, and they share their stories. We've had a few men be in the books too, but they share their stories about surviving something. It could be something as domestic violence, rape, surviving a marriage, forgiveness. I mean, whatever the title series is, that's where we pull from, and I recruit authors from. I pray for the authors to be in the book, and I have these series. I have written, some women have written some powerful stories. Um, I've been, just hearing their stories where they've been delivered, they've had breakthroughs, or people have read their stories, and even going through the writing process, they've healed. People have read their stories, and it helped them heal. And and I believe the stories are really powerful, and I also do documentaries with these stories. So when they join this anthology project, they share their stories, and we do a short documentary with them sharing their stories on the big screen. Because again, I think it's very, very important for us to share those traumatic experiences, because there's someone out there that is either going through something similar, or this, that have went through the same thing. And just to be able to help someone come out of that fear or whatever they're going through is really the purpose behind those, that my book of series for Surviving Her.
So you say you recruit women. How do you recruit them? And if somebody has a story to share for potentially for one of your upcoming projects, how would they reach out to you?
They could reach out to me on social media, or they can go to my website, thecathystaton.com. I recruit just by posting, but actually
Okay.
most of my authors over the years that have been in my Surviving Her projects have actually come from word of mouth.
Oh, okay.
Word of
Okay.
mouth from someone else that have been in one of my books. They've come most of the authors, or the people who join my projects who I've helped become authors and things like that, they've come from word of mouth. But I've also gotten some people who I've recruited just from posting on social media, running an ad or something like that, or somebody tells somebody. That's how I recruit. That's how I get them.
Okay. So
Absolutely.
how many books do you have altogether?
Whew.
It's a lot. When you went like that, that means it's a big number.
It's a lot. I know, I think I'm sitting around about between 25 and 30. I stopped counting.
Oh, okay. All
I
right.
stopped counting. So, and most of them are anthologies.
Okay. Mm.
I've been in a few, and I've written a few single ones, but most of them, because I find joy in, just simply, assisting women with sharing their stories. Because I think, like the gentleman said before, that was before me up here, we all have a story. We all have a story, and you just have to, and also, when I also do when I recruit, I pray and ask God to send me the right people, because you may have a story, but you may not be ready to tell it.
That's true.
And I can tell that, and we can tell, my team, we can tell by your writing. I can tell if I talk to you, if I interview you to be in the book. I can tell if you're not ready, to share your story. So so I pray and ask God, and say I recruit 15, about 5 might fall off because either they're not ready, to share their story. They don't want to mention this person's name, or something like that, or for whatever reason they're just not ready. And then some fall off because they simply, don't want to pay. You-
that
because
that can
I
be a barrier.
because I've came across quite a few people who reached out to me to be in my books, and they feel like they should share their story for free, you know, not
Mhm.
knowing that, this, I have a team that I have to pay, for different things, and we give them, and I stand on, like what they say, they stand on business. I stand on excellence. I put out, my projects I put out in excellence, because I believe it's, God, this is something God has me doing. So we beautiful graphics, and things like that. And it's not really about all that, but we make sure your story is powerful. We make sure that it's something, with purpose, and that is truly going to, empower you and those who read it, and help somebody. So if the story is not right, it's not going to go in. It doesn't sound right, it's not going to go in one of my books. So one of my anthologies, it has to be right.
Mm.
So
Well, the first rule of economics is nothing is free. So when people expect you to do work and don't pay you, that's, to me, that's insulting. But some people do feel like um, professional time should be free, but why should it? And if people work every day, they get paid for what they do. So why
Absolutely.
wouldn't you get paid? And all, as you said, all of those things cost money. You have to editing, somebody has to edit it.
Yeah.
Somebody has to do the graphics. And
Yeah.
then, the formatting or whatever. Everybody is several steps along the way. And everybody has to be paid on all of those steps. And so it's a good way for people. I know people who are in anthologies, and that's a good way to get started with being published. Even if you might be one of 20 stories, but it's still your stories in that book. So that's a good way.
I agree. I absolutely agree. And that's what I recommend. When people reach out to me to do solo projects and stuff, I always tell them, I say the best way to go first is to be a part of an anthology and then do your own book so you can see how the process works,
Right.
and things like that. And I've had, I've helped hundreds of women have been through my anthologies with my books, and they've gone on to do their own solo projects. So I have another series called Wow, which is Words of Women. Words of Wisdom, where I have the authors share their words of wisdom in the chapters, and they just give advice about something they went through in life. So that's another series that I do as well, and that's been very, very popular, with recruiting women and things. I think my very first one, I had like over 50 women in it.
Oh, okay. Now, someone asked, are the stories a podcast or on YouTube? Do you have any of your
I do
stories,
not
like your
have
documentaries, and or any of them
Oh,
on
yes.
YouTube?
Yes, they are on YouTube under, I do not think they are all up there yet, but you should be able to find some of them under Surviving Her on
Okay.
YouTube. On YouTube, yes.
Okay.
They
All
are
right.
up there.
Now, you're going to be doing a seminar at the National Black Book Festival. So
Yes, I'm
tell us about.
so excited about that. I'm just so excited. I love to teach. I love, this is somebody who used to be scared to get in front of people, okay?
Okay.
I
So
love to
you
speak.
got over that.
Got over that. It's still getting nervous though, you still get nervous, but yeah, got over that. After the first few minutes of speaking, I'm good.
So tell
Yes.
the audience the title of your seminar and what you're going to be covering in the seminar.
So the title of my seminar is The Power of Your Story, Writing with Impact and Purpose. And the mission behind it is, for the seminar is we all have a story, but do we know how to write it? Do we know how to write it with impact? Do we know how to write it with purpose? We want to tell our stories. Sometimes I have people write write their stories out of their chapters, and they're saying the same thing over and over again, or it's redundant,
Okay.
or they got 5 stories and I just want one story. I need you to stay on this story, but they're trying to put everything in there, So it's just to teach the audience on how to write with impact, how to grab your audience, how to start your chapter off with a beginning that's going to keep them wanting to read more. It's so many times that I've read books where I was like, I push it to the side because after I got through the first paragraph, it won't tell me nothing. It was boring, or I didn't want, I don't want to, it didn't do anything for me, So just writing those compelling stories with that impact and purpose, and just writing something that people don't want to put down.
And your seminar is 2 hours, because that's all of our seminars are 2 hours. You're going to have your some of your books available during the seminar. And is it interactive? Are you going to be doing any? Because we do have we have a screen in there that you can plug your laptop into to do.
It's definitely going to be interactive.
Okay.
Don't need a screen. but it's going to be
Okay.
interactive. Yeah,
Okay.
I like to talk to my audience and for you to, do stuff and things like that. So it's going to be interactive. So y'all, you might get put on the spot. Come and be ready. Be ready. Be ready. But when you walk out of there, I think, you will be empowered to, go and write, and at least know how to start a story or start sharing your story with purpose and impact. We don't want to write for nothing. It's so many authors that I've done anthologies with, or where they've been in my anthologies. They're not doing anything with their books. They have powerful stories, and then you don't want to be that person. You want to make sure that your investment is working for you. Don't waste your investment. You pay to be an anthology. If you pay to write a book, do something with it. Do something with your story. There's somebody out there that needs to hear your story. My story might not help them, but yours might.
Okay. Now your seminar is what time is on a Saturday?
Two
Is on that
o'clock.
Saturday at 2 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
And are you going to be presenting by yourself, or do you have anybody
Now I'm
with
going to be by
you?
myself. I was going to have someone with me, but they are unable to attend. So it would be me. Just me, y'all.
Okay, well, there's no problem with that. Now, are you which genre are you in for your books? Which category are you in?
My category is I think it's inspiration. Yeah,
Well, we have
inspiration.
motivation, self-help,
Mo-
or your religious faith.
Hold on one second. It
'Cause I don't have it
is,
in front of
I have it
me.
right here. I have it. It is motivational self-help.
Okay.
Yeah, motivation and self-help.
Okay. And uh did you all of the books that you have, you said some of them are anthologies. And then how many books do you have that you wrote by yourself? Just it's just your information in there. And it's not an anthology with other people. So that
Mm-hmm.
they can kind of get an idea about you, Cathy, and your thoughts.
Mm-hmm. It will be three of them. Um,
Okay.
yeah, love's got everything to do with it.
Okay.
It's one of them, and it'll be two other ones. Um, screens from the church pew
Okay.
is another one. That's about church hurt.
Okay.
Yeah, so it'll be
We hear
three, and
about
then
that.
it'll be a lot of a bunch of my other books as well.
Okay. All right. So you have those three. Now, do your anthologies have a particular theme? Like when you create an anthology, how do you decide, okay, this is going to be the topic, and then I'm going to recruit people for that topic?
Oh yeah,
How do
absolutely.
you how do you pick the topic that you want to?
I pray about it, and then it's just like it just comes to me. For instance, surviving her. This one is count. Can you see
Oh,
that?
yeah, that's
Well,
one of
I
those.
have my screen on, but I have, for
Right.
instance, surviving. I have one surviving her that says "Count it all joy." So the story's about joy. I have another surviving her that's called "The Art of Forgiveness." Surviving her, and that's about stories all about forgiveness. Forgiving. Forgiveness is not for us; it's for other people. Forgiveness is for us, not for other people. So the stories in this one is about forgiving. And then I have another surviving her called "Finding Hope Beyond the Pain." So you find hope. So that's my
Hmm.
title for that one. And then my latest one that's going to be released next month is called Surviving Her. This is volume 5. It's called Unraveled Threads.
Unraveled.
Unraveled Threads. That's going to be the newest
Okay.
one. And that is
Okay.
about, and that's called The Journey of Rebuilding Your Life. So the women are talking about how their threads became unraveled, like
Hmm.
something in their life, that came, how you had something in your life became unraveled. Like somebody talks about their divorce, how their threads became unraveled going through divorce, and then how they put their rebuild their life after divorce. So that's
Okay.
like one story.
Well,
Yeah.
that's a good topic. I was talking to a young lady recently that had recently gotten divorced, and she's around 40, and she was trying to decide, do I want to date, look towards getting married again? Not, you have to meet someone first, of course, but first you have to decide you want to even put yourself out there that way. You know what I mean? And she was going back and forth with whether she wanted to do that or not. So how do you advise women regarding that after divorce, going forward after divorce?
Oh, after divorce, I guess it depends on, what happened, in a divorce or what got them there. But to just to be general, I would say work on yourself, because that's where I am. First work on you. Work
Okay.
on you, spend some time with you and discover who you are. Because that's where I am in my life now. I'm spending time, I'm just getting closer to Christ, and I mean, I had something tragic happen to me a year ago. I lost my only son to diabetes, my only child, in April
Oh,
of last year. So I've been sharing my grief story, and I'm actually going to write my own personal book about losing my, only child, and my grief story, my grief journey that I've been on since April of last year. He was 33 years old, and he had type 1 diabetes, and he passed away. And in my healing process, I'm still healing, and how God, my faith has, kept me from losing my mind. My flesh wants me to just crawl up in a corner and not do anything. Being suicidal, but not wanting to kill myself in that way, but just not wanting to live, but not wanting to kill myself, but just not wanting to live. So just, going through that, and how my faith lifts me up out of the bed every day. So just working on yourself, discover who you are, and just spend time with you, and loving your and learning to love yourself through Christ's way. Because there's two different love yourselves. We had this self-love thing. People talk about self-love all the time, but I'm not talking about self-love from the earthly way. I'm talking about self-love Christ's way. Love yourself through Christ.
right. Well, that's a good way to end. And thank you so much for being a guest on the show. And we'll see you at the National Black Book Festival in a week and a half.
I'm
And safe
excited.
travels until then.
Yes, can't wait to meet you.
All right,
Wait to
same
meet
here.
everybody. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Okay. Have a great night.
You too. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So, for those who are watching, we're ending the show early tonight because our final guest didn't log on. I'm the only one doing the show, as far as Rhonda wasn't able to do it tonight because of a family emergency. And so I decided that we could just end the show early. So we will see you all next week. Thank you all for tuning in. And next Tuesday night, we'll have another episode of Black Authors Matter TV. I'm Gwen Richardson signing off. Have a great week, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you for tuning in, and join us next Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern for another edition of Black Authors Matter TV.